Picture this. It's October 2024, and Byju Raveendran, the guy who founded India's absolute most valuable startup, is standing in front of the cameras. And he admits something completely stunning.
He literally says, the company is worth zero. Zero. I mean, just think about that for a second. Literally, 3 years prior, this very same guy was smiling on the cover of Forbes. He was at the helm of a massive $22 billion EdTech empire, completely backed by heavyweights like Sequoia and BlackRock.
So, it begs the ultimate question. How does a global tech giant just vanish, completely disappear in 36 months? Well, in today's Explainer, we're not dealing with rumors or speculation. We are looking strictly at the official paper trail to trace exactly what went down. Let's get into it.
To understand the fall, we really have to look at the dizzying rise. Raveendran was born to teacher parents in a small village in Kerala, and he actually started out as just a local cat exam tutor. But he was so good, his classes grew so massively that he was literally filling up entire cricket stadiums. It's wild. By 2011, he launches Think and Learn, and then the BYJU'S app drops in 2015. Fast forward to 2020, the pandemic hits, schools shut down, and BYJU'S absolutely explodes. By 2022, they are sitting at that legendary $22 billion valuation. They are the single most valuable edtech company on earth. But, behind the scenes, the foundation was already cracking.
You see, a lot of that perceived hypergrowth was actually fueled by a reckless, multi-billion-dollar global shopping spree. We're talking $950 million spent on Akash, $600 million on Great Learning, $500 million on Epic, plus hundreds of millions more on companies like White Hat Jr. and Tinker. They basically stopped running a focused, fast-growing business and started acting like an empire. They were trying to build this massive global education ecosystem by just gobbling up literally everything in sight.
And all that spending caught up with them. When the company finally released their financial year 2022 numbers, which, by the way, dropped a full 18 months late, they revealed a total disaster. Sure, revenue looked okay at a respectable 5,298 crore, but the net loss? A staggering 8,245 crore. To put that simply, for every single rupee they earned, they were spending 1 rupee and 56 paise. You don't need a finance degree to know that math just doesn't work.
Unsurprisingly, this structural weakness started to bleed out into the public eye. The very first red flag was the silence. Like I mentioned, those financial statements were delayed for a year and a half. Then, their top auditor, Deloitte, outright resigns, basically saying they couldn't even start an audit because of all the delays. And almost at the exact same time, 3 independent board members who represented major investors just up and quit. In the corporate world, an auditor resigning is like a blaring emergency siren. After the dust settled, only Byju, his wife, and his brother were left running the entire company board.
But guys, the domestic chaos was really just the tip of the iceberg. In November 2021, Byju's borrowed $1.2 billion from U.S. lenders to fund all that international expansion. Well, soon after, creditors started alleging that $533 million had mysteriously vanished from a subsidiary called Byju's Alpha. The money allegedly flowed into this little-known Miami hedge fund named Camshaft Capital and then got transferred again to another subsidiary called InspileLearn. Naturally, this escalated into a massive, prolonged legal battle over in the American courts. Ultimately, a Delaware federal judge ruled that Byju's affiliates had drained cash in direct violation of bankruptcy rules. Now, Raveendran firmly denied siphoning the funds, stating they were just used for legitimate business purposes. But here's the kicker. He failed to produce the actual documentation to prove his case in court, so the court found them guilty of fraudulent transfer and breach of fiduciary duty. As you can imagine, any remaining trust with those lenders was completely shattered.
Now, here is the ultimate irony in this whole explainer. The final, fatal blow didn't actually come from those angry Wall Street lenders. Nope, it came from Indian cricket. Think about this. Byju's had raised over 30,000 crore in its lifetime, yet the single domino that triggered the final absolute collapse was their inability to find just 158 crore to pay off a sponsorship debt to the BCCI, the Board of Control for Cricket in India.
Once that cricket debt defaulted, the dominoes fell incredibly fast. It was just a cascade of legal warfare. U.S. lenders sued for default, which forced a Chapter 11 bankruptcy filing, while the BCCI simultaneously filed for insolvency. The whole process basically devolved into absolute chaos. We're talking court-appointed officers allegedly trying to illegally remove major U.S. creditors just to manipulate voting rights. The whole mess got dragged all the way up to the Supreme Court, while Raveendran was left scrambling, making desperate promises that he just couldn't keep.
But we need to pause for a second, because this wasn't just some numbers on a spreadsheet failing. It was a profound human failure. 50,000. That was the peak employee count at Byju's right before everything collapsed.
Thousands of those hardworking people either lost their jobs or just went entirely unpaid as the company desperately slashed costs. But the impact goes even deeper than that. Regular, everyday middle-class parents who took out really heavy loans just to afford Byju's expensive subscription packages, they were left holding all that debt. So, while venture capitalists and giant investment firms can eventually just write off their losses and move on, it's the everyday families who are left holding the bag.
And as for Raveendran himself, the founder's peak net worth was once estimated at roughly 17,545 crore rupiah. That's over $2.1 billion. Today, multiple financial indexes list his current net worth at exactly zero. 13 years of relentless, non-stop building, completely erased in just 36 months.
So I want to end this explainer with the question for you to think about. Is this the ultimate cost of prioritizing hypergrowth over a solid real product? Because this is exactly what happens when unchecked ambition, aggressive marketing, and massive debt are used to mask a fundamentally broken business model. If you want more data-backed breakdowns of business history just like this without all the hype, make sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Thanks so much for joining me today.